Imagine having enough money to be able to create anything you want. A stealth plane that can turn completely invisible, an entirely new element, an anti-gravity device, artificial intelligence named after your butler, or even, for some reason, jet-powered roller skates. You may have an idea where I'm going with this. Today, we're going to talk about the 10 wealthiest villains in Marvel history. We'll discuss how they earned their fortune and what kinds of nefarious activities they've gotten up to. Number 10. Obadiah Stain. If I had a name like Obadiah Stain, I'd probably turn into a supervillain too. There's also the whole growing up in extreme poverty with a gambling addict father and seeing him die in front of your own eyes thing, which I'm sure was a bit of a contributing factor. Obadiah Stain is estimated to have a net worth of a whopping $100 million. How exactly? Well, mainly crime. Obadiah, known as the Ironmonger, worked as an illegal arms dealer, running his own company, Stain Industries, not to be confused with Stark Industries. Well, except for that period of time in the comics where Obadiah took over Stark Industries and renamed it Stain Industries. Things get a bit complicated when a character has been around for more than 30 years. Obadiah was first introduced to the comics in Iron Man 163 in October 1982, although he was first introduced to the world on a much larger scale in 2008 when he appeared in Iron Man and was played by Jeff Bridges. I have to say, when I watched this movie for the first time over the weekend, it was a little startling to see the dude rip something out of Robert Downey Jr.'s chest. But you know what they say, that arc reactor really ties the room together, man. Number 9. Magneto. The jump from the 10th wealthiest Marvel villain to the 9th one is a pretty large jump in more ways than one. Magneto is estimated to be worth a staggering $900 million. That's right, the mutant master of magnetism is worth $800 million more than the man who managed to buy out Stark Industries. Pretty neato, if you ask me. Magneto was born in Germany and grew up there during the worst possible time, the Holocaust. After escaping execution and witnessing his whole family murdered, Magneto escaped into the mountains, got married, and had kids. But we all know how marriage and kids work out for supervillains, don't we? Magneto met a fellow you may know, Charles Xavier. He then worked with the X-Men until his beliefs that mutants were superior to humans began to cause conflict. The following years, his general pastimes as a villain included building space stations, creating mutants and human clones, and being able to control every metal around him. That's pretty hardcore, if you ask me. His years as a villain in charge of other mutants is what many suggest would amass him such a large fortune. Number 8. Emma Frost. Most people on this list have had a slew of occupations alongside supervillain. For most, it's entrepreneur, CEO, chairman, X-Men member, but the next person on our list has all of those, along with exotic dancer, sexual therapist, and teacher. The 8th most wealthy Marvel villain is none other than Emma Frost, who has an estimated net worth of $1 to $3 billion. Emma was fortunate enough to be born into a wealthy family, but not fortunate enough to have a father who wasn't a total jerk. Her father, Winston Frost, was the owner of Frost International, a Fortune 500 company. After becoming estranged from her father, Emma struggled with homelessness for quite some time before she used her business skills and telepathic powers to improve her life. Eventually, Emma used these powers to take control of the family business, which helped her to earn billions. Number 7. Harry Osborne. Perhaps by now you're catching on to something. Most wealthy villains were born into wealthy families. With money and superpowers comes, well, power that's used for evil. Harry Osborne, also known as the Green Goblin, is not a fan of Spider-Man, but he is a fan of money. With an estimated net worth of $10 billion, Harry inherited this from his father, Norman Osborn's multinational corporation Oscorp. And at the same time, he inherited a vendetta against Spider-Man, believing that old Peter Parker was behind his father's death. Number 6. Norman Osborne. That being said, Harry wasn't the only Green Goblin. His father, Norman, was the Green Goblin before him, all while running Oscorp as the CEO. As a CEO and chairperson, I seriously cannot fathom how Norman managed to try and defeat Spider-Man on the side. I mean, where was the time? How did he get around to all the daily meetings? I mean, truly, the mind reels. Norman has an estimated fortune that is actually the same as his son's, $10 billion, which can be attributed promoted to Oscorp. After Oscorp was taken over, Norman died, and Harry took over the company. You'd think Norman's story would end there, right? Well, not exactly. Norman didn't actually perish in his alleged fatal fight with Spider-Man. He went away to Europe for some time before returning and continuing to wage war against Spider-Man. Number 5. Aldrich Killian. Comic books and superheroes have a way of shifting, changing, and growing over the years. In the original comics, Aldrich Killian made his appearance in Iron Man Volume 4, Number 1, back in January 2005. He's an incredibly intelligent scientist who plays a role in developing Extremis, a serum that was created in order to create a super soldier. He sells a bit of the serum to terrorists before he ends his life due to guilt. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, however, Aldrich doesn't have much guilt. He created Extremis out of anger, aiming to use it to get revenge on Tony Stark for snubbing him years earlier. He formed a terrorist group, sold Extremis for billions of dollars, and overall just did about every classic supervillain thing you can think of, all because he was a little peeved at Tony. It's estimated that Aldrich's worth a whopping $12.4 billion, which isn't too surprising, considering the fact that he created a serum that armies could use to take over the world. I hear bad guys pay a pretty penny for that. Number 4. Kingpin. One of the oldest supervillains on this list, Kingpin is also one of the most wealthy, with an estimated net worth of $40 billion. He made his first appearance in The Amazing Spider-Man number 50 in July 1967. Kingpin, or Wilson Fisk, joined in on a life of crime from a young age. He joined a gang after bullying and later gained so much muscle and skill that he killed the gang leader and took over. Yeah, this hulk of a man has some serious street skills, and he doesn't play nice. Through his role as a crime kingpin, in case you hadn't already figured out where the name came from, Kingpin was able to amass his huge fortune. When he's not attacking Spider-Man, Daredevil, or the Punisher, he's navigating a political and criminal world where he has many allies and connections. So, you'd think his power would reasonably stop at mob leader, right? Well, not exactly. Wilson Fisk went on to become Mayor Fisk, a role he achieved in spite of his criminal past. And when you're a mayor, a supervillain, and the leader of a major gang, you've got more money than you know what to do with. Number 3. Red Skull. We've almost made it to the most wealthy villain in the Marvel Universe. However, the two runners-up are a bit unique. When it comes to assessing the value of fictional characters, there are some characters that are a bit harder to flesh out than others, specifically because of how insanely powerful they are. Well, for example, Red Skull, who happens to be number 3 on our list. However, if we were talking about which of these villains was the most evil, I would definitely put him at number 1. Why is that? Well, just for starters, have a look at the guy. The Red Skull was unveiled in Captain America Volume 7, Number 1, in 1941 during World War II as the main enemy of Captain America. You may see where this is going. The Red Skull was an actual German general and close friend of Hitler. Even crazier, the Red Skull killed other Nazis so he could be the top one, and then was so powerful and crazy that Hitler himself feared him. That's right, Red Skull is a really scary dude. It's hard to exactly pinpoint how much Red Skull is worth because of his sheer amount of power. He was a leader in Nazi Germany and a leader of Hydra with absolute unimaginable power at his disposal. Number 2. Loki. After talking about the baddest of the bad, it feels a bit jarring to talk about the next villain, or anti-hero on our list, Loki. Yes, most people have grown to love this magic-wielding god of mischief, but he has taken part in a lot of mischief over the years. Because of his position as an alien and a prince of Asgard, it's a bit hard to pin down Loki's fortune, but it is certainly somewhere in the billions, definitely putting Howard Stark to shame. Number 1. Doctor Doom. Finally, we've reached the wealthiest villain in Marvel, and I must say, he certainly has the most villainous name on this list. Doctor Doom, or Victor Von Doom, is estimated to be worth $100 billion, and truly, he came a long way to be worth that much cheddar. Originally born in Latveria, he traveled to the United States as a young man and made a machine with the intention of bringing his mother back to life. The machine backfired, causing him to become extremely disfigured. He forged a mask and took on the role of Doctor Doom, promising to get revenge for the accident that caused his disfigurement, an accident that he blamed on Reed Richards. apprentice in the Fantastic Four. He went on to become the ruler of Latveria, an intelligent scientist, a master user of magic, and even a god. With the control of an entire country and funding from his illegal activities, there's no question how Dr. Doom amassed such an impressive fortune. So, there you have it, the wealthiest Marvel villains. Who do you find the most impressive on this list? And who's your favorite supervillain? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Oh, and maybe turn on post notifications. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got some old comic books to dive into. As always, I'm Mr. Luxury. Pip pip, a doodly doo.